to be a panelist, so that if you would like to share your screen, you can, and you can also unmute and say hello. Um, we love to see faces. If you are in a space where you can show your face, we would love to see it. And we absolutely love to hear voices. And so we definitely want to have your input and as we're going through today. We'll probably wait about 5 minutes as people are transitioning between different workshops, and then we'll get started. For anyone who does not know, I am Nadine G. I'm one of the co-founders of the Be Well Experience, and we welcome you today. We have had an excellent morning. So far, we have done physical wellness already. So if you were with us at the top of the morning at 10 o'clock, we kicked off with boot camp and with yoga. Then we moved into our second set of panelists. And right after that, we went into emotional wellness and mental wellness. And so we had a sound bath meditation as well as some acupressure and healing points. And just at this last hour, we wrapped our professional wellness, where we were talking about the power of presence and our affirmations and our self care, as well as the power of our stories and our narratives and being, open and vulnerable to share those with the world. Right. And so right now we are about to move into our financial wellness pillar. And you guys have a treat for you. Coach Jackie is here with us today, and she is really going to delve into mindsets. I think a lot of times when we are talking about money, we miss mindset, right? And mindset matters. And so I am so proud to introduce Miss Jackie, Coach Jackie, and she's going to take it over from here.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you and to meet you. I love to be here. It's an honor to be invited to teach you about mindset. And I'm really excited because the last webinar that I participated in really spoke about mindset. So it's an extension, right, of where we're going. So I'm really, it's an honor to be here with you. I want to make this as interactive as possible, right? Um, my name is Dr. Jackie. I have been doing financial literacy with my company for 4 years, which is Wealth Enrichment and Fiscal Literacy Initiative, where I have been able to, thank God, touch over 1,000 lives and teaching people first how to heal when it comes to their finances, how to get connected with their finances, and lastly, how to make their finances work for them, right? And so we would be remiss to think that we're going to make an abundant budget if we can't deal with our emotions and beliefs, right? So today, what we're going to do is we're going to speak a little bit about some of the emotions we may experience based on beliefs that we might have made up um, because of the people that raised us or because of some projections that people put upon us, right? So before I get started, I just want to give you a little bit about myself. I've been in the social services field for over 30 years in the field of supporting individuals who are HIV or infected or affected with the virus in various modalities. I've worked in the office. I've worked in the field. I worked in Rikers for a little while. It's just, all around, all over the place, right? And so I'm grateful because it's afforded me the many ways in which I can bring financial literacy to different folks. I'm also a professor at Touro College, where I teach undergraduate social work courses. And as of 2 years, I've been invited to teach in the medical department to teach the psychology of success. And as I said, my company opened in 2016. So I want to share my story. So I I've been married for over 20 plus years, right? And the joke is that I married into debt and not into riches, right? And the reason why I say that is because how many of you know or might have experienced when you're in a relationship, right? The pride that you have to say, yeah, I'm such and such girlfriend or boyfriend, significant other, right? And so here we are. We just got married, and the phone rings, and so I pick it up, and they're like, "Can I speak to Mr. Delapons?" I'm like, he's not here, but would you like to leave a message, right? And I'm like, ha ha ha. And then it's like, oh, um, this is such and such credit card, and he owes X amount. Long story short, he owed over $20,000, right? So here I am. I'm like, okay, so what do we do? So let me tell you that the person, I'm grateful that the person felt some kind of pity for me, because they said, you know what, I'm gonna take this phone off recording and I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do. And I was like, sure. So he says, all you have to do is offer something. Just pay the principal. They don't care about the interest. And that's when I knew I was in trouble, right? Because that's how these companies make money, right? They actually make money through the interest, not necessarily for the money that they lend out. And so anyway, we made this plan to get out of debt. So what happens? I have a 6 year old, right? This is my second marriage. And we decided we're going to Disney. So what happened was that we made this vigorous payment plan. And the day before we were going to Disney was when we made the last payment. So we went to Disney broke. Fortunately, that we had paid for the trip already, right? And everything that we needed. It was a 4 day, our first trip. So we go, and my son, we're in the Magic Kingdom. Now you know Magic Kingdom, right? And if you haven't, if you've seen it on TV, when you see that white pops, that blue is so beautiful. The pink is like the colors are amazing. So during that time, what was really out in the cartoons was Aladdin. So my son decides that he wants a plush doll, the magic, the genie doll. And I was like, we can't, my husband and I looked at each other and we couldn't really we couldn't afford it. And I tell my son, well, let's take a picture of it. It'll last longer, right? And so, right, it's funny. But I gotta share that it wasn't funny then, because that was the first time that I really experienced fear, like that heart grappling fear that, today is a toy, tomorrow it could be shoes, it could be food, I don't know. Right. So my husband and I decided to come up with these ideas that would support us, right, to keep track. Right. And so we started doing budgets. This is 20 plus years ago. I can show you spreadsheets from back then, right? And so fear was what really propelled us in order to move forward. But I got to tell you, we learned through the school of hard knocks, right? There wasn't anyone there to support us. There wasn't anyone there that I can say, I feel ashamed. I feel, whatever it is, emotions that come up, because these emotions are real. So we had nobody but each other to lean on. And sometimes it was just really me leaning on myself, right? So now that I told you a little bit about myself, the reason why I'm passionate is because I don't want anyone else to go through what I went through, right? And so here we go, right? So you see my screen, right? Which is also your screen. So here, let's imagine this is you, right? Beautiful you, getting ready to do a budget. But then here you have all of your what? You have your emotions, you have your beliefs, and then you have all of that history, right? On top. And then this is you trying to do a budget, right? And so what happens is that we may bring forth beliefs, right? So what are some things that you might have heard when you were growing up about finances?
I heard nothing about finances.
You heard nothing about
There's
finance. Yeah. Okay. What else?
Money doesn't grow on trees.
It sure does it. But paper doesn't know. That's a whole different kind. Okay. What else?
Make sure you pay your credit cards on time.
Right. Save $5. Mm-hmm. What else?
They used to tell me to save something for a rainy day.
Right. Oh God, I hate that term rainy day. But we'll get into that later, right? Rainy day makes you think like my shoes are wet, my hair gets messed up, my makeup runs, right? And it's not a pleasant thing, right? So we're already looking for a rainy day to happen. That means that is a disaster. So that's what we're kind of like saying. I'm putting money for the disaster in my life to happen. So what are we saying? We're telling the universe. In my case, we're telling God, I'm bracing myself for the disaster, God. So I'm throw it at me. I'm here, right? So it's like no, right? So I have this pet peeve with that word. So beliefs, right? We only got little to no conversation, right? So what happens is that a belief is an acceptance that a statement is true or real, right? And our beliefs start as early as you're in your mama's womb, believe it or not, right? As soon as we can hear, right, we already know certain things are happening. So certain beliefs that you may have growing up, right, from 0 to 5, is that your parents take care of you, right? So you have no conception about money yet. When you're in junior high school, which is, excuse me, when you're in grammar school from 4 to 5, 9 to 10, what are some of the things you might have heard from about money?
You might get lunch money.
You might, and it's just for lunch,
Mhm.
not for the candy bar you want after school, right?
All I heard is it doesn't grow on trees.
It doesn't grow on trees, right? So at that age, you're still saying, um, mom and dad is still taking care of me, or whoever your caretaker was, right? And you may be introduced to money, but there's a time in which you're introduced to money, and it's a reward. Who remembers?
Allowance.
Allowance, but the truth fairy, right? Right? And so here we are. Now we think that money just comes from out of anywhere because nobody's teaching us what to do with money. Right? And then they may take us to the store, we buy the candy bar, whatever the case is. So that's the first introduction, right? If you were brought up with that, right? Donald's like, that's interesting. Yes. Then you have high school, right? So what happens in high school?
That's the allowance, right?
That's the allowance, but something else happens in high school.
Lunch money.
Lunch money. And then what's that? If you want to get those sneakers, you better go do what?
Get your own job. Get a job.
Right. So here we are at 13, 14. We're going into the counselor's office in school trying to get what? Our working papers. Yay. We get our working papers. Now we think we're it, right? We're independent. But what's the purpose of the working papers? To go work. So who sat with you at that point to teach you how finances work? Probably chances are nobody, right? And then you go to college, right? So then a lot of people don't realize that there's grants for you that you can tap into, right? And so you go to school oftentimes because someone is telling you to go to school, right? Not because you decide you want to go to school and you want to be the administrator, you want to be the doctor, you want to be the this, right? Oftentimes what happens is that our parents or whoever is raising us is projecting onto us what we should do, right? Now, that's not right or wrong. It's all about being clear, right? Because some of you are going to probably leave here today and say, what are my beliefs about money? And that's a good place to be, right? Because then you're not in reaction to what you've been taught, right? So let's delve in a little bit more into this. So you have money beliefs based on looks, based on your age, based on your ethnicity, based on your gender, based on your background status, on your education. I can go on and on and on and on and on, right? So if you see somebody that looks good, the assumption is, oh, they must have money, right? If you see somebody with the red bottom shoes, it's like, oh, they have money, but we don't know if they're struggling, right? Because it could be an addiction that they have, like a shopping addiction. I remember the first time I had a client and I saw she was literally painting the bottom of her shoes red with acrylic. Right. And I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I can't afford it. So I'm going to do this. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. But we never know. But if we look at a glance, we're making assumptions about people without even knowing them. Right. An example based on our background status. If your, let's say an example would be, if your parents own the business, right? The assumption is that you're going to take over the business oftentimes, right? And then you don't want to speak about it or you don't want to say no and you automatically end up doing what they're doing. Again, projection. So for me, a projection that was put, and then I'll love some interaction from you, is when I was growing up, I saw my parents wake up early, take the train, go to work, come back exhausted, and spend a couple of hours doing what they needed to do in the evening, and then they go to sleep and do it all over again. And so when I grew up, of course, guess what happened? Got up early, took the train, right? drove, and then did my 9 to 5. Probably had to deal with a supervisor I didn't like, didn't want, right? Because God was showing me a lesson with that too. And then I had to come home and do it all over again. So I sat there and I said, all right, so now let me look at my grandparents. Guess what they did? They got up early. They plowed the land. They went to sleep at an early time in the evening just to get up and do it all over again. So the mindset was that I had to work hard for my money. So when all this entrepreneurship stuff started happening, guess what? The first thing I did, I hid under a rock and said that would never work. So the belief was that I had to work for somebody else if I wanted to make money, when it's not true. See where I'm going with this? So our beliefs and the projection can really keep us in a place where we're stuck. So I would love to hear from maybe one or two of you. What beliefs do you have about money that you don't realizing right now that they're probably in reaction to when you were growing up?
I'll share to get us started.
Nadine.
But I know that growing up, there was, my family really did work hard. Everyone really worked hard to make sure that we had money. One of the things that came up when I was looking to be a social worker was that social workers don't make money. Like, you can't make money in that field. And so it was kind of like, you know, you're going into something thinking that like the career path is only going to be stagnant, it's only going to be this, and you kind of had to break out of that and see all the different options that it could be that just wasn't, people just didn't know about and didn't really understand, and we're kind of working from a different knowledge base and learning how to kind of break through those ceilings of like, nah, that doesn't have to be my reality, that doesn't have to be true. So that's one thing for me.
Yeah, right. Like the whole idea of if you're a social worker, you're not going to make money, right? But whose belief was that? Did anybody sit down with you and say, all right, let's look at the trending data. Let's see where a social worker is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, right? No one sat down with us and taught us that, right? Because remember, the projection was go to school, all right? Because if I go to school, I'm going to be fine. No one told us there's student loans attached to going to school, right? Because they didn't know. They did the best thing that they could with what they had, right? And so it was somebody's belief that social workers don't make money. When in actuality, and it's interesting you bring up social work because I teach social work. If you look now, if you want to work in the nonprofit field, most of the jobs require a social work degree, even for an administrator's degree, right? So you can go ahead and hit the 6-figure salary if that's what you want, is what you're looking for, right? So again, on somebody's belief, right? If you were to ingrain that, Nadine, and say, well, social workers don't make money, then you'll accept whatever position they give you because you already have it in here. Social workers don't make money anyway, so, right? So we continue to live that belief system. Then here it says, city jobs are the best job. Yes. When you work in the city, you've arrived. Arrived where? Right? Arrive where? Right? And then yeah, and then you're saying, okay, so it takes 40 minutes. Let's say I'm from the Bronx. It'll take me a good 40 minutes to get to the Bronx to Manhattan. Right? But I can get a job probably paying more in Sanford, Connecticut, which is 45 minutes the opposite way. Right? Or I can even cross the water and go to Jersey because again, that was the belief. The best job is a city job. Right? Then here, prior generations, you don't need to go to college. Right? And so thanks for sharing. Right? So what happens is that prior generations, what they did was they stayed in one job. I'm going to date myself. Who remembers Bell Atlantic? Some of you are saying Bell Atlantic. Right? Bell Atlantic was the phone company, right? So you have post office, telephone company and organizations like, yeah, right. My grandma used to work there. Yeah. And then you have organizations like American Express. Well, the reason why people stay there, like our grandparents and parents stay there, was because they had a great pension plan, right? So they would retire with some money. But what happens is that that's not the thing now. Now people are not investing in us with a 403, right? So that's the belief system. And then you have emotions, right? You may feel ashamed because you feel that you're not where you're supposed to be based on what you said you're going to do, right? You may feel afraid because you don't know exactly what your numbers are, right? But you're still living life like it's okay because listen, if it's not broken and you've been surviving since, notice how I say surviving, then why bother? Right? Why bother? But yet you're stressed out, right? You're stressed out because now you get paid and you don't even know how you're going to pay your bills, right? So let me just let you know that the average person has 50,000 thoughts a day. And out of 50,000 thoughts, 70% are negative. So you're starting in the wrong foot already. How many of us start with snooze? Every day, all day long. Why do I snooze? Because I dread what I have to do, even if it's just waking up, right? Because I probably didn't sleep well. All right. I just want to take this here. That was on my mind. The belief that retirement comes late in life, tied to pensions and government-based investments. Yes. Yeah. So, right, you can start retiring now, right? Even though you're working. And that means just live your life because that's what we would do. We would work hard for most of our lives, live 10 years, and then what happened, right? And so that's what happened to a lot of our parents and grandparents. So now you're having negative thoughts, right? Because all of these thoughts is what's happening. And so what I want you to realize is that a lot of these things you weren't taught. Some of you are probably saying, why does my money doesn't last? Well, because you weren't taught how to manage your money, right? You weren't taught how to look at your numbers, right? You may be saying, why do I feel anxious when I get paid? Well, because you have already conditioned yourself to think that there isn't enough. Some of you are saying there isn't enough, but you haven't even looked at your numbers. What am I going to do with the credit card bills as they're building up? Listen, credit card, the jobs of the credit card is to entice you, right? If they can entice you to get credit, that's what they want you to do, right? So what happens when you're about to hit your credit limit? What are some things that happen? You can put it on the chat if you don't want to say it. Right? So some of the things that happen is that,
Right?
yes, go ahead, Donald.
Your credit score drops.
Yes, your credit score drops. What else? How many of you have gotten that, oh, and out of nowhere, your credit limit has been increased? Right? Because their job is to really keep you in debt because they want you to continue to take money, right? So all of a sudden now there's offers, right? So you want to be mindful of that. The other thing is you argue with your partner, your spouse, because you don't know what to do with the money, right? And so what happens is that because money is a taboo, let's be real, we have not been raised to talk about money, right? Once, like what happened to me, right? That's where the friction comes, right? That's where the friction comes. So my job today is to teach you how to become intimate with your finances so you can lead an abundant life. Now, I want to be clear that a life of abundance doesn't just mean money, okay? There is abundance and there's prosperity. Abundance is when you do something that you like and it feeds your heart, okay? Prosperity is the money part. All right, so there's a difference. So I'm going to share my screen. I am going to share my screen. I promise I am. And I'm gonna share. Can everyone see this? Oopsie. Okay. So the part that I want you to see is the top. I make budgets very colorful. Budgets should be fun. You shouldn't feel like they're trapping you, right? So the first thing that you'll see on this screen is expenses. Now, why do I tap into expenses first? Well, because if you look at your income first and then you do your expenses, chances are you're going to run for the hills, right? You're going to run for the hills and you're going to slip and slide and never come back. So when you look at your expenses, right, what you want to do is you want to list all of your expenses, right? That's your category. So rent, uh, you have rent, you have, um, wait a minute, I can't see my screen. Who can share some of the expenses that they may have?
Rent, utilities,
Uh-huh.
car insurance, life insurance, food.
Right, credit cards, right? And you have
Yeah.
things like that. And sometimes, oftentimes, what happens is that people who start a budget, they don't even include their savings, right? So some of you might have heard the theory, the zero budget. The whole idea is that you have zero money at the end, right, of the month, but that you include your savings, right? So the
We
best thing
can't
to
see the
do,
budget or the screen.
you
Sorry.
can't. Oh,
No.
oh. Okay, let me share again. Can you see it now?
Yes. Thank you.
Woo, okay, I can see it too. Thank you. Um, so you want to be able to track at least 3 months worth of budgets. So here you can see that this person started tracking in July, right? And you'll see that they pay 1,000 again for rent, right? Or mortgage, whatever the case is. So what you want to do when you do a budget is don't automatically assume that your rent is going to be paid off, right? So it's December, you want to start adding these numbers as you pay them out, okay? Then the lifestyle number that I speak of is this number over here, the total. This right here where it says 11,000, this person is $11,000. That's what they need in order to live, right? But what they did wrong was that they put the IRS up here and they put the full total as opposed to what they pay a month. So let's say that you need $3,000, right? That's your lifestyle number. So what you want to do is if you don't have an intention to save, listen, the best thing to do is to set an intention to save, right? If you don't have an intention to buy a car or to buy a high ticket item like a house or a car, right? Because what happens is that if you don't set an intention for your money, when you save it, what do you do with it? You spend it, right? So whatever it is, like there are times that you probably said, I'm going to save money for, for vacation. And chances are you don't touch the money for vacation, right? So that's what you want to do. Okay. So in order to start your budget, you want to do at least 3 months worth of numbers. So this person, right? I would tell them since January is coming, right? I would say, start collecting your numbers for October, November, and December, right? So that you can see the average and then come up with your actual number for your budget. Now, the beautiful thing about COVID is that pre-pandemic, people would say, there is no way that I'm going to do food prep and take lunch, right? And now because people are working remotely, they realize that they can leave the phobia that they have with cooking or preparing meals, right? I'm the type of person that tells you I love coffee, but I'm gonna be drinking Jackie Bucks. I'm not drinking Starbucks or anything else. You can have Jasmine Bucks, Donald Bucks, Latanya's Bucks, right? Why go out there and make somebody else money when all you have to do is buy a coffee pot that's going to cost you $15 and buy some coffee grains, right? Get creative. Now, your income, you want to set it up the same way. How many sources of income do you have, right? Now, the thing with income is that a lot of people have convinced themselves that they can't make any money. I say, listen, if you work a 9 to 5 and you have a passion, talent, or skill that you can monetize, go ahead and do it, right? Some of you are probably sitting on money. Some of you probably have journals that you can turn into books. Some of you who are teachers can start tutoring. I had a client, listen to this one. He was a Spanish teacher, is a Spanish teacher, and he started teaching people Spanish. Really simple. And I challenged him. I said, all right, so how many clients can you come up with in a week? And this was before we were doing a lot of this remote stuff. I said, you don't even have to drive to their homes. Figure a way in which you can speak to them and do it online. Well, in guess he made $500 in 5 hours on a Saturday morning. That was it. He just stood in front of a screen and taught people how to say the most basic things in Spanish, right? So you have a talent that you can monetize, right? You really do. But some of you have allowed your belief system to really scare you of what you can do, right? Now, what I would tell you about your savings is a lot of people say that if you save 3 months if you save 10% of your income, you're well. If you save 20% and start investing, you're on your way to be a millionaire. I say, listen, if you've never saved before, save $5 at a time, because for me it's about the discipline and trust that once you get into the habit of doing these types, right, of looking at your money, it becomes a game. Now, there's a lot of apps out there, and that's great. This is where you can call me old school. The best thing to do when you start budgeting is to start really looking at your numbers in a spreadsheet like this, because what happens is that it forces you to enter the number and to really look at it on a yearly, right? So, for example, if you work in the city job, right, and I'm going to say you purchase salads 5 times a week. Now, you know what salad I'm talking about. The nice salad that you get to pick whatever you want. They sell it by the pound. You're on a diet like me, but you love the dressing, so you make it into soup. So there goes the diet, right? By the time you finish, that diet is that salad is $15. So I do this 5 days a week, right? That's $75. $300 a month, $3,600 a year. You see where I'm coming from? So when I see my numbers yearly, I'm more it'll have more of an impact on me and my decision making, because now I have now I have the education and I know what's going on, as opposed to me just jumping and spending the $15. Make sense? So with your debt, what you want to do is you want to be able to know exactly what you owe. Exactly what you owe. And I will say this, some of you may be sitting on debt that you don't even know about. So what I would say is get your credit score and get your credit report. The credit report is important. You can get a credit report if it ranges anywhere from 13 to 29 pages. All right. You're entitled to one free credit report a year. All right. You're entitled to one credit report a year. And you want to really go through it with a fine tooth comb. And what I mean with that is that you really want to look at everything that that credit score says. It does tell you where you've lived. It tells you the different names that you've had. Me, for example, my name is Jacqueline Nieves de la Paz. Some people have me as Jackie N, as if Nieves was my middle name, and it's not, right? It says everywhere I've lived, right? Everywhere I've lived. All right. So you actually want to look at it. So sometimes you may think, oh, I paid off all that debt on that credit card. And you may find out that you don't, that you didn't close an account. And I like this. So Teresa says the pandemic got crazy. I don't know what day it was. Okay, I think I heard unlimited reports during pandemic. Great point. The other thing that you want to do, and it ties into debt, I want you to call everyone that you owe and find out, first of all, what's the APR rate? What's your interest rate, right? If you're serious about paying down your credit cards, Find out if they have any promotional programs that will support you with 0%, right? They may say no. If they say they may have a 6 month, 9 month, or a 12 month. Now, let me tell you, this is the other way in which they get you. Because if you're not in a commitment to pay off that debt, right? After the 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, those interests are ballooned, right? So you have to pay that. So I would say do not get in, though, do not do that unless you're in a commitment to pay off your debt. All right, be mindful of that. You want to find out from them how long you've been a member. Don't assume, right? You may know all of this information, or you may think you know certain information, but the pandemic has changed everything. Okay, the pandemic has changed everything, meaning that even though, right, I may share something with you today about what's going on, policies and procedures can change, right? They can change overnight. So today is Saturday. If I might tell you something today that I knew of yesterday at 4:49, and now 9 o'clock on Monday is totally different. So you want to be mindful that whatever you thought you knew, forget about it. Just forget about it with money and with everything else, right? Student loans, there's a lot of things going on with your student loans. If you know that you have a student loan, call and find out how they can support you. Now there's the CARES Act that's allowing you to like loan forgiveness. You get to call and find out, okay? You get to call and find out. Now I know I covered a lot, and you were probably wanting to come here and learn more strategies on how to budget. But I am not your typical financial person. I am going to support you first through your emotions and your beliefs, because you'll never get to the numbers if you don't debunk that. And I know that because I personal experience myself, because anger would pop up, or because I should have been somewhere because I am, working so hard and saving and I'm not, right? Or because of the projections my family had. Once I found out all of that information, sitting down with my numbers was so much easier. I was able to forgive whoever I needed to forgive, right? And I was to experience whatever it was that I needed to experience. So, with that said, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? I will
Thank you
say
so
this.
much, Jackie. We appreciate it. So much information. So we have about 5 minutes together, everyone. So if you have some questions, we would love to hear your questions.
And it's okay. You can ask whatever question you have.
Also share a takeaway that you, something that stood out to you during this session.
I have a question. Do you make the forms yourself for your budgeting?
Yes, those are actually the forms those forms, if you look at my budget, you'll see that they develop throughout time. I still use the same forms. The only thing, mine has gotten a little bit more sophisticated. I have graphs and stuff to it, but I like to simplify it for my clients, because I have different packages that I offer, coaching packages, group work. Like right now I have a financial abundance boot camp that's starting in January, and that's 6 weeks. And this is one of the tools that we use. What I do is that I don't give my clients everything at once, because you saw that sheet, even though it's colorful, it's not cute, right? Because right away you start thinking, oh my God, I got to dig up the numbers, or I have to do this. So you're already starting with charged up emotions. So what I do is I start slowly with introducing the budget. So, but yes, that's one that I use. A question, do I like apps or Excel? Thank you for asking. I like my Excel worksheet, because the thing with apps is that they're, if you're disciplined, go ahead and use it. One, what I find is some of my clients have 5 apps and then they wonder why the budget doesn't work. Well, because if you're not disciplined to look at your numbers every month and to see where you are, or if you're not disciplined to use just the one app, right? Then you're gonna have numbers all over the place. As opposed to if you use the one app and you're consistent with that, then fine, right? I prefer old school. I'm old school. Um,
And then Jackie, can you briefly talk about your giveaway? Because I think that Jackie's one of our presenters who's offering such a great giveaway for people who are present today. And so if you want to share a little bit about that before we close out today.
Sure. So you're just for attending, just let me know that you came to this workshop and you have a complimentary one-on-one coaching with me, where that means that you can ask me questions, right? Because I'm clear. Let me tell you, when I do this in a corporate setting, I literally had an epiphany and a realization where I stood in the front of the room and I said, that's why people don't talk to me, because I remind them of their finances. Had nothing to do with they don't like me. It's just that they would see me and they run the other way, like I have to go to the bathroom all of a sudden. So I am clear that this conversation is charged. My number is in the chat room. Feel free. Let's set up an appointment. Let's get you started. Listen, I can share things that I have for you, and I'm not here to be a millionaire. I'm here to support people and help them get started, right? So I have the financial abundance breakthrough also that I shared. There's a discount for that. The same discount will apply. I started what I call spiritual clinics. I'm very spiritual. My higher power is God. And so I have a clinic. It's called the Spiritual Clinic, where you align your life with God's purpose. Then I also have another clinic that is called the Entrepreneurship Clinic. And there you align your business according to God. And so I shared earlier in the other workshop, as a result of this work, so part of my abundance is being able to give. To give of me, to give of my talent, to give love. And so I started a prayer line, and we've been praying for 268 days. And it's been phenomenal. We have 5 ministries going on. We've blessed moms, single moms in the shelter with school supplies. And I mean, it goes on and on and on. So I want you to know that I'm here for you. My number's in the chat. Yes, abundance is a mindset. You get to step into it. And I got to tell you, this year I really lived what abundance is, right? There is a difference between abundance and prosperity. All right. So I would love to hear from you. Just say that you are in the Be Well conference, and I'll be more than happy to have a one-on-one with you. Bring your questions. There is no time limit on it. So if we have to spend 15, 20 an hour, then that's what we do.
So much, Jackie. So if you have a moment, if you want to unmic yourself and say thank you, please do that. I love to give people their roses while we're here. And we are going to wrap up there, and then I'll do some announcements after that. But if you want to say thank you, please feel free
Thank
to.
you. Thanks, Dr. Jackie.
Thank you.
so much,
Thank you, Dr. Jackie.
Yeah,
Thank you.